Alright, so we're group 3, and we will be going over implementing policy change for students with disability. The presenters are Annie, Abby, and I'm Haley. So we're going to start off with a few definitions just to explain bullying and harassment. And to start off with, we're going to go with bullying. And bullying is unwanted, aggressive behavior among school-aged children that involves a real or perceived power imbalance. The behavior is repeated or has potential to be repeated over time. Both kids who are bullied and who bully others may have serious, lasting problems. Bullying includes actions such as making threats, spreading rumors, attacking someone physically or verbally, and excluding someone from a group on purpose.
Okay. We will now go into the definitions of harassment. Harassment is a form of discrimination as defined above that occurs when the school or work environment becomes permeated with intimidation, ridicule, or insult that is sufficiently severe or pervasive enough that it unreasonably alters the employment or educational environment. These are behaviors that could constitute legal harassment include, but are not limited to, acts based on race, color, religion, sex, national origin, ancestry, disability, age, genetic information, or any other characteristic protected by law.
So we wanted to focus on students with disability. So the definition of disability is a condition such as an illness or an injury that damages or limits a person's physical or mental abilities. There were two different acts that we found that showed how a student is qualified with a disability. The first one is the Section 504 Rehabilitation Act, and that one the student must have a physical or mental impairment that substantially limits one or more major life activities, have a record of such an impairment, or be regarded as having such an impairment. So ultimately, Section 504 is a little bit more broad on what is required for a student with a disability. However, for the IDEA, which stands for Individuals with Disabilities Education Improvement Act, that definition, they require that they must be evaluated and determined to fall within one of a series of specific defined disability categories such as intellectual disability, deafness, blindness, emotional disturbance, autism, specific learning disability, and others, and need special education and related services by reason thereof. So that definition is a little bit more narrow than what the Section 504 requires.
And the IDEA Act is implemented in schools, correct?
Correct, yes.
Public schools. Public schools.
Yes.
Awesome. Alright.
Okay. The next graph we are going to talk about is just the kind of prevalence of disabilities within the school system based on the IDEA Act, which once again, Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. You'll kind of see that a specific learning disability such as ADD, ADHD are the top with 35%, speech or language impairment with 21%, other health impairments 12%, and then autism makes 8% of those with disabilities.
Alright, so prevalence of disabilities, 60% of students with disabilities report being bullied compared to 25% of normal students. Signs of children being bullied are a decrease in grades, inability to concentrate, school avoidance, and increase of dropouts. We are now going to do a little bit of a pop quiz. I've pasted the link on your guys' Google Hangout groups, and we're going to open the form, and you guys are going to answer the questions, and then I'm going to give you the answers. The answers are inability to focus on more than one piece of information, they have a lower frustration tolerance, they lack motor skills that are required for school, they have additional assistance to communicate appropriately, and physical traits that reduce their ability to keep up with others. Now we're going to go into this graph that shows an increase in students with disabilities that have been served from 1980 to 1981, which is in the green, and then from 2011 to 2012. As you'll see, the top two developmental delay and autism. They don't have any comparison numbers because autism was not put into the DSM until the 1987. And prior to that, it was put under intellectual and emotional disability. So as you can see, the numbers have increased over the years, and what we would like to see is that these children are being served appropriately for public school settings.
Okay. This graph now compares the number of students with disabilities in the public school setting with those of normal cognitive students in the public school setting. So we chose Blue Valley School District, Kansas City School District, Shawnee Mission Schools, and Raytown School District. So you will notice that Shawnee Mission School District has the largest number of children with disabilities, which is 1,460, which is 5.2%. The Kansas City School District has 23,410 students, with 1,315 being diagnosed with disabilities or who are receiving special education services, which is 5.6%. Raytown has 8,570 students in their school district, with 375 students in special education.
So we wanted to look at each school district to see what kind of policies or laws that they might have had in their student handbook. We looked specifically at the Kansas City School District, and they actually did not have a policy or law in their student handbook. They just had the definition of bullying and harassment, however, in there. Same thing for Raytown School District. They just had the definitions, and bullying and harassment were actually both lumped into the same category. And then the Blue Valley School District and Shawnee Mission School District, they both actually had what they call a report bullying link on their website, where you can fill out a form to report if you're seeing any instances of bullying inside the school. And that will be a handout that we'll kind of go over next in our slide. However, their student handbook did not have a policy listed either.
Okay. We found a couple resources and policy barriers. Policy barriers basically are the barriers to the policy is that there really is no policy. Bullying and harassment are listed under the same category, and there really is not a universal statewide policy. They kind of leave it up to the school districts to decide what they will do in regards to bullying and harassment. So that's kind of what we want to see change, is that every school district have the same policy on bullying for students with disabilities. The only way that they do some type of bullying prevention now is through individualized education programs, or IEPs. What those are is a yearly meeting between students, parents, teachers, and administrators in their school, and they decide how the child will educate themselves throughout the school year and how they can prevent bullying or harassment in school themselves. We also will be passing out that bullying report form, so you can take a look at it.
And that form is specific to the Blue Valley School District, and Shawnee Mission School District also had it. I printed out for Blue Valley Northwest and Shawnee Mission South, and specific to those different districts. And you guys can just kind of see how they try to utilize some resources even though they don't have that actual policy in the handbook.
Next, we're going to show you a map of the U.S., and this map indicates what states have laws and policy both. And let's be clear, the law is through state education code, and policy is to specific districts and schools. So as you can see, Kansas and Missouri have laws only. That leaves the policy in schools to be made up individually by school districts. And what our group is really wanting to see is the school districts to break that policy down and be very narrow with bullying within the children that are disabled. We want something more specific instead of just an overall harassment and what it is and how you're punished for harassment technically. So that is what we would like to see in the next few years.
Okay. We kind of looked through a couple different agencies and we found two possible community connections. The first one is the Coalition for Independence. Their mission is the Coalition for Independence is persons with disabilities actively participating in enhancing their own rights and abilities through services, supports, education, and community change. We also looked at the ARC of Missouri, their mission statement. This is for the entire ARC of the United States, not just specifically for Missouri. The ARC promotes and protects the human rights of people with intellectual and developmental disabilities and actively supports their full inclusion and participation in the community throughout their lifetimes.
Okay. And these are our references. Ta-da!